Hello students, let's read the problem. And it says, the initial water level of a dam is 35 meters and decreases at a rate of 0.7 meters per day. At this rate, how many days would it take for the dam to be empty? Record your answers and fill in the bubbles on the grid below. So let's analyze the question. So what does the 35 represent? Remember, we want to make sure that we understand each number before we actually do any operations, right? So 35, it's the what? The initial water level. Very good. Okay. Now, that's going to help us a lot when it comes to drawing a picture of the problem, right? Okay. What else do I know? Well, it says that it's decreasing at a rate of 0.7 meters per day. Now, what does it mean by decreasing? Is that something positive or something negative? It's negative, right? What about rate? What does that remind you? Maybe rate of change? Yes, very good. So this is more like slope. So what do I know about the slope? Well, the slope is going to be negative because it says decreases. And the slope says at a rate of 0.7. So I'm going to write down over here, slope is equals to negative 0.7. That's the first thing I can see right there. Okay, I know 35. We'll come back to that in a minute. So what is it that I want to know? I want to know how many days is it going to take for that, for the water level to be completely zero, right? That's what it means. I want the water level to be zero. But what about if we draw a picture? Maybe that can help us understand the problem. So let's do it. Let's represent the problem on the graph below. So we're talking about water level. So let's see. I'm not such a great artist, but that's my water right there, right? What's the height of the water? Well, it said that it was 35 meters. So right here is going to be 35 meters. That's the initial water level, right? What happened after that? Well, after that, it's going to start decreasing, which means that my line is going to come down somehow, right? So let me go ahead and draw the line. It's going to come something like this. Is that correct? And at one point, it should be reaching the x-axis. Is that right? So right here, what would you tell me about this point over here? Well, that point would be equals to 0 and 35. And something else. I'm hoping that you remember that this is also your y-intercept. Very good. That's where the line touches the y-axis, right? So if 35 is up there, that means that that's the water level. So let's write it down here. If this is the water level, then x is going to be what? Then x is going to be the days. Very good. Okay? So at one point, like I said, my line should reach x at 0, right? So let me extend the line a little bit. Let's continue with the drawing, okay? So right here on x, these are the number of days, is that right? And on the y, that's the water level. So as the water level goes down, do you see that? Okay, there's going to be a point where it should reach the 0. Is that right? But think about this. The more days goes by, what happens to the water level? The more days goes by, the less water that is on the dam, right? So it's going to come to a point that is right here. Now, what kind of point would that be? Well, let's start thinking about what point would that be. Okay, so there is such a number that is going to be my x value, but I do not know that number. I just know that that's the x coordinate, but I do know something about the y value. The y value has to be a 0. And I don't know if you remember this, but this is called the x-intercept. Write it down over here. Because That's where the line crosses the x-axis, right? Okay, very good. So my question is, I need to find x. I need to find x when the y is 0. Exactly. Okay, so I do know slope, so I'm going to write it over here. M is equals to negative 0.7. I also know the y-intercept. Isn't it the y-intercept, the b, right? What's the y-intercept? 35. Very good. And I do know a point, not all the point, but I know that the y value for this point has to be a 0. And this I do not know. I'm going to leave it as an x. So let's work out the question. So of course I need to use the slope intercept form. So I'm going to say y equals mx plus b. And I believe we have enough information to work it out, and that will help me find the value for x, because the y value is 0, so I'm replacing the 0. The slope is negative 0.7. How about x? Well, I do not know x, so write down an x plus the b, which is the y-intercept, and that's a 35. And remember, the only time when you can work out a problem or an equation like this is when there's only one unknown, okay? So I'm going to have 0 equals negative 0.7 times x gives me negative 0.7x plus 35. Since I want to leave x by itself, I need to get rid of that 35. And I'm going to get rid of that by taking away or subtracting 35 on both sides. Okay, what do I get? Well, 35 minus 35 cancels out. It's a 0. 0 minus 35 is negative 35. And that gives me negative 0.7x. What do I need to do next? Well, I need to get rid of the negative 0.7. So I need to divide by negative 0.7. Are we good up to there? Okay, awesome. This is gonna cancel. Now, remember guys that cancel means not that it disappears as a 0. Whenever you have the same number on the numerator and denominator, it's a 1. But 1x is the same as x by itself. What's negative 35 divided by a negative 0.7? Well, negative divided by a negative, it's positive. And 35 divided by a negative 0.7 gives me a 50. So I'm going to write down that number here. So this one is 50 comma 0. But you know what will help you? If we actually write the labels for that. X is days. So I'm going to write down over here days. And Y is the water level. So if you can read what the order pair means, it means that it will take 50 days for the water level to be at 0 meters. Is that right? That means completely empty, okay? And that's what the question wanted to know. The question says, how many days would it take for the dam to be empty? Well, it will take exactly 50 days, right? So let's write the answer on my gradable. So since it's a positive, I'm just gonna write down the positive sign. I understand it's not needed. I'm just gonna write it down for the purpose of having something bubble in there. And then my answer is 50, 50. Make sure that you bubble in the correct or the corresponding numbers that goes with those circles, right? Very good.